Well, welcome to Unit 5, Sunday and Sabbath. Sabbath and Sunday, forget how I termed that. It might seem unusual that this unit, which really ostensibly is about the issues of translation into the vernacular and its history, those are the documents you'll be reading, that I'd begin that with the Sabbath and Sunday concept. And I do it very intentionally. There's been a lot of criticism, or you could say even some of those, what they termed the liturgy wars, were over whether or not the liturgy of Paul VI, the Vatican II liturgy, took the mystery out of our worship. And that really society had changed so much by the time we got to 1965, American society that is, that I'm not sure you can tease out what had to do with liturgy coming into the vernacular and what was just the way in which the culture had changed. Yes, the Mass was in Latin, but I think that priests were as careless about celebrating Mass in Latin as they sometimes were in English, and it didn't show up so much when they had their back to us and things were so different. So that's why I began this discussion with Sunday and Sabbath. The same way the Constitution on the Sacred Liturgy begins with sort of the underlying principles of liturgy, why we celebrate, before it gets to the particulars about things that should be changed. So that's the rationale behind it. I put several documents into the resources section of the files. They are things that I've written with the coming of the third edition of the Roman Missal. One is an old essay I wrote about prayer, public and private, that you might be interested in. And the others are things that I've written. I did a lot of talking and writing and around the country in parishes and in big conferences about the welcoming of the third edition of the Roman Missal. And I put a couple of those there. And just this summer I gave a paper at the Societas Liturgica in Germany, reflecting on my year's sabbatical. Just found myself traveling around the world experiencing the revised Roman Missal in many different English-speaking countries. And I kind of did my own participant observation of what I had discovered along the way. And that might be of interest to some of you too. I also fixed up the campus guides a little bit. If you look on the Home tab, I added a section on due dates. So I know some of you might be anxious about papers that are due. And I was originally thinking that there would be 3 reflection papers in addition to the self-assessment, but I've changed my mind on that. I'd rather have you use that self-assessment as the third paper and do a good job on it, and use the learning outcomes as a basis for your analysis of your own learning. And then the paper that you get your topic approved and then have a plan, just so that we can work together on it. Don't want you out there in left field all by yourselves. I want to be able to support each of you in any way that I possibly can. I also found, in doing my own research, an old study guide for liturgy and the liturgical movement that was written by Virgil Michael in the 30s. And I found a reference that Dorothy Day had used this. And I'm writing a biography of Ade Bethune, who was a colleague of Dorothy Day's. And I wrote to Liturgical Press to see if they had a copy of this in their archives. And they sent it to me. So I put it on eReserves. Now remember that the password for eReserves on our website is worship. whereas the password for Study Campus Guides is Worship 2013. But I put it there just because it might be of interest to you. It is a historical document, but it's interesting, and that those kinds of things really paved the way for reception of the Second Vatican Council and the Reformed liturgy here in the United States, at least. And things were much further along in Belgium and Germany and France, where Virgil Michael and others had studied in the years leading up to the council. On the message board, I've enjoyed reading your comments and your questions. And you might still continue to have questions about the way it was. Just one thing I'd ask you to try to do is, if you have multiple questions, put them in multiple entries. And if you change the subject line and to a topic, so if you have a question about the last gospel, just change the subject line to last gospel, and I'll answer the question there. And that way, when we go back and look at the message board, we can easily pick out the topics of the questions without having to read through everything. And just having multiple entries, I know it's a little more work, but I'm an obsessive compulsive Virgo that likes things neat, and it's easier for me to go back and pull things out that way. Okay? If you have any questions during the week, please be in touch. I sort of have a week off there that I gave you to catch up with things, although by the end of next week I would like to know what topic you're thinking of for your paper so I can give you some feedback on that. And you need that copy of the Sacred Places, the Larry Hoffman monograph. I have it for you. I've only heard from 3 students so far about how to get you the document. I'm happy to mail it to you if that's the easiest way for you. Okay? Email, phone, text. Come visit. I look forward to working with you. I hope you have a good week. Bye.